Hello everybody, the topic I'm going to explain to you today is deflation, and after the completion of this video lecture you will be able to know definition of deflation, causes of deflation and graphical representation of deflation. Before moving forward, I would suggest to note these references for best practice and exam preparation. Furthermore, I would like to suggest you to copy all links given in the description which are arranged as per the syllabus and paste these links in your Word file for future reference. Now coming to the definition of deflation. Deflation is opposite to inflation. In inflation, general price level increases, and in deflation, general price level falls. So fall in general price level, continuous or persistent fall in general price level is known as deflation. And there are two causes of deflation. Number one is fall in aggregate demand, and number two is rise in aggregate supply. Whenever aggregate demand falls, it leads to shift demand curve, aggregate demand curve to the left. It results in fall in general price level. We can show it graphically. On X we have real GDP, this is origin point, and on Y we have price level. This is aggregate demand. Initially aggregate demand is AD and aggregate supply is AS. Aggregate demand and aggregate supply both intersect each other at point E, where general price level will be P and real GDP or national output is Y. So whenever there is fall in aggregate demand, it shifts aggregate demand curve to the left. So new demand curve will be AD1, and as a result equilibrium shifts to E1, where price level falls to P1 and real GDP falls to Y1. So in this situation we can see that real GDP is falling, it means economic growth will fall, and general price level is falling, and it means it is causing deflation. So what causes aggregate demand to fall? We already know that aggregate demand has four components: C plus I plus G plus X minus M. If there is fall in consumption, fall in investment, fall in government expenditure, or fall in net exports, then aggregate demand will definitely fall. If these factors, the net effect of these components is falling or negative, then aggregate demand will also fall. And whenever aggregate demand falls, we know that aggregate demand curve shifts to the left. Now coming to the second cause of deflation, that is rise in aggregate supply. We have real GDP on X, this is origin point, and on Y we have price level. Initial aggregate demand is AD, aggregate supply is AS. Equilibrium is taking place at point E, where general price level is P and real GDP is Y. Now if there is rise in aggregate supply, as a basic principle of demand and supply, aggregate supply curve will shift to the right, and new aggregate supply is AS1. New equilibrium will take place at a point where new aggregate supply curve intersects aggregate demand curve at point E1. So now real GDP is Y1, which has increased, and price level is P1, which has fallen. The different causes of rise in aggregate supply include fall in cost of production. There may be greater subsidy provided by the government, or there may be fall in indirect tax. If government reduces indirect tax, then it will fall. And there might be fall in wage rate, fall in cost of raw material, fall in wage rate, and then is fall in interest rate. Deflation caused by a fall in aggregate demand is known as bad deflation. This is bad deflation causing fall in aggregate demand and level of economic activity in the country, and real GDP is falling. It means economic growth will be falling, and this is known as good deflation. It is good deflation because it is causing economic growth in the economy.